Anatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gora Tushe Namaha. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna and welcome again to the nightly classes. This will be the last nightly class for that I'll be taking for 2 weeks. We'll take a 2-week break and then I will again return to my regular slot of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So this coming week and the week after, I will be having a short break. And then I will be resuming. And then at that point, we will be discussing the Sri Caitanya Caritamrita again. I decided we will save the bhajans of Narottam Das Thakur maybe for another time. Best not to jump around here and there. Let us conclude, or at least get as far as we can into our study of Sri Caitanya Caritamrita's Madhya Lila. So, on this note, we will be, again, after 2 weeks, resuming our Caitanya Caritamrita study. However, today, we have concluded also our study of the Damodarashtakam and Damodar Lila. So I was left with 2 options as to what exactly we could do. We could either speak some more details of the Damodar Lila, or we could speak briefly on a other pastime or another point, only for today. I decided, as yesterday was the beginning of the Katyayani Vrat, we will discuss that pastime, and we will discuss the significance of that pastime for as long as today allows. We will speak about it, probably not the whole pastime, but we'll just speak about bits and pieces of it, get a rough idea of it. Because, of course, it is appropriately timed. Of course, a better day to discuss it would have been yesterday, but I did want to keep at least some continuity in regards to the Damodar Lila and the Damodarashtakam classes. So, on that note, we will discuss a little bit this pastime. And I will not be discussing it from Bhagavatam, because in a sense, this pastime that flows from the Katyayani Vrat is not as rasic as the Ras Lila or something like that, due to the age of the gopis involved. But still, it is a pastime that can be easily misinterpreted by those people who are not hearing it from the proper sources. If one wants to hear a very in-depth description of this pastime delivered very sweetly, my revered spiritual master, His Holiness Sri Srimad Radha Govinda Das Goswami Maharaj, He's given quite a few hours of katha on the Chirharan Lila. So he has spoken on this, so you can find online. The Hindi classes are available, as are the English translations, as is a PDF transcription of the English translation. So this pastime, this katha, is very readily available, and I would encourage everyone actually to listen to it in order to get a more factual understanding of the nature of this esoteric and elevated pastime. But anyways, I will speak a few words, and then after speaking a tiny bit, we will conclude for today, and then we will take the 2-week hiatus, after which we will return. So I was saying we will not read directly from Bhagavatam, because reading directly from Bhagavatam I think would be a little inappropriate in this context, and also is a bit too much depth for something we only want to discuss a tiny bit. So we will be reading from Srila Prabhupada's Krishna book. Krishna book is amazing. His Holiness Devamrita Swami Maharaj, he says that that Srimad Bhagavatam is for study, but Krishna book is for relaxation, or something along the lines of that. Bhagavatam is for study and Krishna book is for vacation. I'm not sure the exact words, but along the lines of that, Devamrita Swami says. And this is very true. In fact, we should daily try to relish Krishna book. Srila Prabhupada established this. To drink milk every night, warm milk, and read Krishna book. If this is done, then this is very beneficial for one's spiritual life. His Grace Keshavananda Prabhu, a very, very senior brahmachari disciple of His Holiness Srila Bhakti Vikas Swami Maharaj, he says that if we are not regularly reading Krishna book, our chanting naturally will not have much quality. Because if we are chanting, not if we are chanting, but when we are chanting, what are we chanting? We are chanting the names of Krishna. We are chanting about this great personality, Krishna. And so, while chanting about this personality, it would be very beneficial if we were to know who this person is, whose name we are saying. Otherwise, of course, the name is transcendental and has all its potencies and all so on and so forth. But from our experience, we almost may as well be saying Bob, 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 Bob. Bob, Sarah, 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 Bob, something like that. We may as well be saying that, because if Krishna is a distant personality to us, he's about as relevant to us as Bob is. So by reading Krishna book, it deepens our meditation on the holy name. Obviously, the holy name has potency if we understand it or not. But this is speaking about our ability to dwell and meditate upon it. Our meditation is so much more deepened when we understand who this Krishna is. And how do we understand who this Krishna is? Well, Krishna has so mercifully appeared in the form of Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam. So by studying Bhagavatam, we can come to know who this Krishna is. But furthermore, the summum bonum of this Bhagavatam, which reveals most intimately who this Krishna is in the 10th canto. But we cannot access the 10th canto easily. So Srila Prabhupada has so mercifully given us Krishna book, a way by which we may relish the pastimes of the 10th canto without running the risk of going unguided into the higher things. So this is the value of this Krishna book. Krishna book is, again, very worshipable. We should try to relish it daily. So, discussing in Krishna book, we can find in chapter 22, we see the description of this pastime. Most of the chapters in Krishna book, they correlate to the chapter in 10th canto of Bhagavatam. So in Krishna book, it's chapter 2, and also in Srimad Bhagavatam, it's chapter 22, canto 10. So, this pastime is happening in the manifest Lila. And it begins discussing who? Shukadev Goswami, when he describes this pastime, he begins it by saying, Hemante prathame masinanda vraja kumarikaha. Kumarikaha. Some people will hear this pastime and they will think these are, mature girls. And they will attribute some sort of false interpretation to the nature of these pastimes. But actually Krishna, he is having this pastime with very innocent, very sweet girls. It's almost friendly, this rasa. So Kumarika, here it refers to young unmarried girls. These are not the girls, the gopis. In a sense, we can't even call them gopis. These are kumaris, and they are very, very small. They are not like those who sing Gopi Geet, Venu Geet, all of these high things. No. That's not to say they are not high. They are infinitely worshipable. But they are not within that category of the very intense Madhurya, Rasik pastimes. And so, Srila Prabhupada, he narrates that according to Vedic civilization, unmarried girls from 10 to 14 years of age are supposed to worship either Lord Shiva or Lord Durga in order to get a nice husband. But the unmarried girls of Vraj, of Vrindavan, were already attracted by the beauty of Krishna. They were, however, engaged in the worship of Goddess Durga in the beginning of the Hemanta season. Again, Hemante, in the Hemanta season, Hemanta season, which is just prior to the winter season. The first month of Hemanta is Agrahayana, which is, Srila Prabhupada said, is over the time period of October to November. Some people will sometimes say it's in the period of November to December. It really just depends how you wish to characterize it. It's rather hard to lock up a month on the Vedic lunar calendar to correlation within the Western calendar. So, the first month of Hemanta is Agrahayana, and at that time, all the unmarried gopis, again, unmarried gopis, this is not some, as some rascals will say, some pastime of some flirtatious mood. This was a very innocent, teasing pastime. So all the unmarried gopis of Vrindavan began to worship Goddess Durga with a vow. So this is very interesting. That even that they all had been attracted by the beauty of Krishna. Very interesting. Because we find in Vraj, who is married to Krishna? All these gopis and kumaris, they're all hankering for this. They're all desiring this, but are they getting this? No. No one is really married to Krishna. But they are married to all sorts of other men throughout their growth in Vraj. But we should understand that this is only a question of pastime. Actually speaking, the gopis, they are what? They're the Shaktis. They are the Shaktis of Krishna. Shakti and Shaktiman, the energy and the energetic, are one and the same. There is no difference between them. So in this sense, even though in pastime they were unmarried to Krishna, in Tattva, they were more intimately married to Krishna than anyone can be, because they are his energies which are coming out from him, and his energies which are directly connecting to him. Not like us, we are Tatastha Shakti. And as Tatastha Shakti, yes, we are the energy of Krishna, but we are trying to turn away from Krishna. So we are not as intimate as those Kumaris, as those gopis. So in Tattva, in philosophy, the only husband they have is Krishna, because they are one and the same soul. How can anyone be more intimate than them? So anyways, all the gopis, not the gopis, I keep saying, all the kumarikas, all the kumaris, they went out On the first day of Agrahayana, in order to perform this vrat on the bank of the Yamuna. However, when they went there, they were very surprised to realize that all of them had the same desire. They had all gone separately with their own intention. I will go for this purpose. I will go for this purpose. They were all going with their hearts like that. And they were thinking, let the other gopis do not have this idea. I will go in secret and worship Durga Ma, that we may be able to be married to Sri Krishna, or rather just Krishna, at Sham Sundar. So having this desire, they all went and they became astounded to see each other there. And yet, when they saw each other, they were not able to keep the secret. They all knew what was going on. They all knew exactly that they had all come for the same reason. And so, they first ate, Srila Prabhupada writes, Havishyana, a kind of food that is prepared by boiling together mung dal, and rice without any spices or turmeric. So, if you know this, actually, this sounds a bit like the khichdi that I have some days. Just mung dal and rice boiled together, no spices or turmeric. And so, this is a rather austere preparation. According to Vedic injunction, this kind of food is recommended to purify the body before one enacts a ritualistic ceremony. All the unmarried gopis in Vrindavan used to daily worship goddess Katyayani early in the morning after taking a bath in the river Jamuna. So they're all engaging in austerities together. They all know that they're all there for the same desire, for the same purpose. So, executing this, they were all doing this. And who is Katyayani? Maybe many of us will know, maybe some of us will not know. But Srila Prabhupada, he is giving a wonderful description. That Katyayani is another name for goddess Durga. The goddess is worshipped by preparing a dollar made of sand from the bank of the Yamuna. It is recommended in the Vedic scriptures that a deity may be made from different jewels, from different kinds of material elements. It can be painted, made of metal, made of jewels, made of wood, earth or stone, or can be conceived within the heart of the worshipper. We should understand in this injunction, it's also said that anyone who sees this form and thinks it merely to be wood, merely to be earth, or merely to be stone, if it is a murti of Vishnu, they are a cursed personality. The Mayavadi philosopher takes all these forms of the deity to be imaginary, but actually they are accepted in the Vedic scriptures to be identical with either the Supreme Lord or a respective demigod. So again, if one thinks of them merely to be wood, merely to be stone, merely to be just a concoction of the mind, then one has performed a great error. They are not having the proper conception. But the gopis were having the proper conception to a degree. Sometimes in ISKCON we minimize demigod worship, and for good reason. Better than worshipping the demigods is to respect them as devotees and then continue our worship of Krishna. But here we find the transcendental rules of Raj. That even demigod worship here, this is not happening because they wish to worship the demigod. This is here as just another expression of their love for Krishna. So this is very different. One might say, hey, isn't this demigod worship? Yes, it is. But it is demigod worship that is actually Krishna worship. So we should not think that this is some condoning demigod worship. It is not. Anyways, so so these girls, they were going through all of this tapasya, all of this, and they used to prepare the deity of Durga and worship it with chandan pulp, garlands, incense, lamps, and all kinds of presentations, fruits, grain, and twigs of plants. After worshipping, it is a custom to pray for some benediction. The unmarried girls used to pray with great devotion to goddess Katyayani, addressing her as follows. O supreme external energy of the personality of Godhead, O supreme mystic power, O supreme controller of this material world, O goddess, please be kind to us and arrange for our marriage with the son of Nanda Maharaj, Krishna. So they would perform all of these things, and they used to do this in the early times in the morning, the coldest time of the day during winter, in order to show the intensity of their desire and their devotion they have to executing this vrat. So, in this way, they prayed and prayed and prayed. And Srila Prabhupada here, he continues then to discuss the nature of demigod worship. And he says that obviously the Vaishnavas, we do not worship demigods, and Narottam Das Thakur has strictly forbidden all worship of the demigods for anyone who wishes to advance in pure devotional service. This does not mean we blaspheme the demigods, but it means if we wish to grow in our devotional service, we should not engage in their worship. It doesn't mean if somebody worships a demigod, they're a terrible human being. In fact, most people, if they are pious in their worship of demigods, are good people. But they are not spiritual people. They are not devotees. Or rather, at the very least, they are not devotees who are advancing strongly in the devotional path. But Prabhupada makes the same point I made earlier. That the worshippers of demigods, they sometimes mention this. They sometimes mention this. And say, see, even your gopis, they worship the demigods, so you're allowed to. This is not proper, and this is not true. The purport is that the gopis, they prayed to the goddess to become wives of Krishna. So the point is that no matter what one does, if it is done in order to please Krishna, in order to make Krishna the center, that activity can be adopted. You could technically kill someone if you wanted to. And if that was genuinely in the service of Krishna, then it is transcendental. It is not an immoral activity. But this is something that should not be abused. I can guarantee 99.99999% of people who would say, oh, I'm doing this to please Krishna, is actually just a sinner trying to place their sins on Krishna's shoulders. So they did this worship of Durga in order to attain Krishna. And therefore, it is bona fide Vaishnav demigod worship. So early in the morning, they would all go together, and they would assemble together, holding each other's hands, and they would sing beautiful kirtan of Krishna's pastimes. It is an old system among Indian girls and women that when they take bath in the river, they place their garments on the bank and dip into the water completely naked. The portion of the river where the girls and women bathe was strictly prohibited to any male, and this is still the system. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, knowing the minds of the unmarried young gopis, blessed them with their desired objective. They had prayed for Krishna to become their husband, and Krishna wished to fulfill their desire. So it was Krishna at this point who fulfills their desire. And because the reason why is because Durga, actually, we should realize that when people worship a deity, the deity cannot give what they do not have. Durga Ma, as was mentioned, she is the external potency, the supreme external energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Her relationship with Krishna is not that of marriage. It is not even that of providing liberation. It is that of keeping people bonded. So Durga Ma, she was not able to give it. But actually, the Kumaris, Even though they were addressing Durga on this day, they were worshipping the internal potency, not the external. Because the external could not give this. So even though she's being glorified in this way, we should understand that the Tantra, that the Tantra that the Tantras say that Durga actually can also refer to the internal energy. So these things can get confusing. Anyways, either way, Durga never appears to grant their vow. Because if it was the external potency that is being addressed, then how can she give that marriage? And if it is the internal potency, then the internal potency will give through pastime. So then, what does Srila Prabhupada say? At the end of the month, Krishna, along with all his friends, appeared on the scene. Another name of Krishna is Yogeshwar, or master of all mystical powers. In fact, we also hear Yogeshwar is a name of Shiva. But we'll find in Bhagavatam, we find Krishna has the name Yogeshwareshwar. He is even the Lord of Shiva. So from this we can understand the elevated and high position of these of Krishna above all of the other personalities. And also we should think Krishna, he wants to fulfill their desires. This master of all mystical powers, which is the meaning of Yogeshwar, he wants to fulfill their desires. Why? Because they rose early in the morning, they took bath, and they engaged in Sankirtan in Sadhu Sangha. This here is the recipe for spiritual perfection. The gopis here are not the gopis, the Kumaris here, they are showing perfectly how one can attain Krishna's mercy. Krishna gave his mercy. Why? Because they were engaging kirtan early in the morning with sadhu sangha. So, with sadhu sangha, with chanting and with rising early in the morning, one can very easily obtain the self-same thing. Krishna himself giving himself to his devotee and wishing to fulfill the desire of his devotee. So we can understand like this. They performed this for an entire month. So while performing this whole month, they were very strict and they were very, very strong in their performance of this. But as we were saying, Krishna, along with all his friends, appeared on the scene. Now here, Yogeshwar also has another meaning. Because we know yoga can also sometimes refer to the Yoga Maya. Or the Mahayogini, which is another title of Katyayani. So Katyayani is also referred to as Mahayogini. So by being Yogeshwar, by being the ruler of this yogic process, it's also making clear that Krishna is the Lord of Durga herself as well. And so this is making a clear indication. Not only is Yogeshwar referencing Krishna's superiority to everyone, not only is it showing that he is the Lord of that personality that the gopis, the Kumaris were praying to, it also is also a reference to Bhagavad Gita. This again shows, sometimes we will reject Bhagavad Gita. This is low-level stuff. But actually Bhagavad Gita is very rasic. We should naturally move on to Bhagavatam, but we should keep on studying Bhagavad Gita. If Srimad Bhagavatam feels it appropriate to bring back titles from Bhagavad Gita, then we should be very comfortable with studying Gita as well. So anyways, so after this, Krishna, he's appeared on the scene. And he's appeared with all his friends. In general, Krishna has 4 types of friends. The Sakhas, who are his normal friends. His Suhrit Sakhas, his well-wishing friends. His Priya Sakhas, who are his very dear and intimate ones. and his Priya Narma Sakhas, who are very, very, very intimate. The Priya Narma Sakhas are to Krishna what the Manjaris are to Srimati Radharani. There are other groups as well, the Vidhu Sakhas, who are sort of the ones who joke around a lot, and the Vittas, who are like artists. But the famous one of the Vidhu Sakha is Madhumanga. And examples of the Priya Narmas, the very intimate ones, are Shubho. Yeah. Anyways, and of the Priya Sakhas, Shridam. So of these categories, we have Priya Narma Sakhas, who are led by Subal. We have the Priya Sakhas, who are led by Shridam. We have the Vidhu Sakhas, who mainly is Madhumanga. So Madhumanga is leading them. And yeah, we have the Priya Narma Sakhas, who are represented by Shubha. So anyways, like this, Krishna, he is there with all of his friends. And there's a lot to speak, actually, about the glories of Krishna and all of his friends. But we will not speak about them now, because we won't have time. So bringing his friends, we hear, by practicing meditation, the yogi can study the psychic movement of other men, and certainly Krishna could understand the desire of the gopis. Here is another reason why the name Yogeshwar has been used, because it is part of the yogic potencies that one can understand and know everything. And Krishna was able to know of this pastime happening and of everything that was occurring. How? He was able to know because he is Yogeshwar. He is also the master of all mystical utterances. So he was able to perceive this. Appearing on the scene, Krishna immediately collected all the garments of the gopis, climbed up into a nearby tree, and with a smiling face began to speak with them. "My dear girls," he said, "please come here one after another and pray for your garments and then take them away. I'm not joking with you. I'm just telling the truth. I have no desire to play any joke with you, for you are tired from observing the regulative principles for 1 month by worshipping goddess Katyayani. Please do not come here all at once. Come alone. I want to see each of you in your complete beauty, for you all have thin waists. I have requested you to come alone. Now please comply." So Krishna, in his jest, told them to do this. After having had stolen away a lot of the clothes. When the girls in the water heard such joking words from Krishna, they began to look at one another and smile. They were very joyous to hear such a request from Krishna, because they were already in love with him. Out of shyness, they looked at one another, but they could not come out of the water because they were naked. Due to remaining in the water for a long time, they felt cold and were shivering. Yet upon hearing the pleasing, joking words of Govinda, their minds were perturbed with great joy. They told Krishna, "Dear son of Nanda Maharaj, please do not joke with us in that way. It is completely unjust to us. You are a very respectable boy because you are the son of Nanda Maharaj. And you are very dear to us, but you should not play this joke on us, because now we are all shivering from the cold water. Please, kindly deliver our garments immediately, otherwise we shall suffer." They then began to appeal to Krishna with great submission. "Dear Shyam Sundar," they said, "we are all your eternal servitors. Whatever you order us to do, we are obliged to perform without hesitation because we consider it our religious duty. But if you insist on putting this proposal to us, which is impossible to perform, then certainly we will have to go to Nanda Maharaj and lodge a complaint against you. If Nanda Maharaj does not take action, then we will have to go to King Kamsa." We will have to go to King Kamsa about your misbehavior. So, Like this, Krishna, hearing this, he answers, "My dear girls, if you think that you are my eternal servitors and you're always ready to execute my order, then my request is that with your smiling with your smiling faces, you please come here alone, one after another, and take away your garments. If you do not come here, however, and if you lodge complaints with my father, I shall not care anyway, for I know my father is old and cannot take any action against me." When the gopis saw that Krishna was strong and determined, they had no alternative but to abide by his order. One after another they came out of the water, but because they were completely naked, they tried to cover their nakedness by covering their body with their hands. Shivering like this, in that posture they were all shivering. Instantly, Krishna was very pleased by their simplicity. And so then all of these unmarried gopis who prayed to Katyayani to have Krishna as their husband were thus satisfied. Why? Because a woman cannot be naked before any male except her husband. The unmarried gopis desired Krishna as their husband, and he fulfilled their desire in this way. Being pleased with them, he took their garments on his shoulder and began to speak as follows. "My dear girls, you have committed a great offense by going naked in the river Yamuna. Because of this, the predominating deity of the Jamuna, Varuna Dev, has become displeased with you. Please, therefore, touch your foreheads with folded palms and bow down before the demigod Varuna in order to be excused from this offensive act." And so, in order to do this, they naturally did this. So, by doing this, Krishna was able to fulfill their desire. Because in this sense, now they had qualified as his wives. Actually, in one sense, they never need to qualify as his wives. Because again, they are Shaktis, they are eternal energies. They're always coming out. They're constantly intimately connected. But Krishna in this way, even in the pastime, he was able to fulfill the desire of his devotees. So it is not that Krishna did this just to have fun. Yeah, he did it to have fun, but he also did it in order to please his devotees. The highest principle Krishna has is to constantly try to please his devotees. This is Krishna's highest principle. This is Krishna's most foremost quality. And so, the younger maidens then were able to be married to Krishna. And Prabhupada makes a point regarding this. Nothing can compare with the Krishna consciousness of the gopis. Actually, the gopis did not care for Varuna or any other demigod. Because one might say, hey, here again, demigod worship, it's everywhere in Braj. But what does Srila Prabhupada say? They only wanted to satisfy Krishna. Krishna became very ingratiated and satisfied by the simple dealings of the gopis, and he immediately delivered their respective garments, one after another. Although Krishna cheated the young unmarried gopis and made them stand naked before him, and enjoyed joking words with them, and although he treated them just like dolls and stole their garments, they were still pleased with him and never lodged complaints against him. This attitude of the gopis is described by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he prays, "My dear Lord Krishna, you may embrace me or trample me under your feet, or you may make me broken-hearted by never being present before me. Whatever you like, you can do because you have complete freedom to act. But in spite of all your dealings, you are my Lord eternally. And I have no other worshipable object." This is the attitude of the gopis' love towards Krishna. We know this is a very famous text. Ashlishyavapadan ratam Ashlishyavapada ratam pinashtumam madarshanan manma hatam karotu va yatha tatha va vidadhatu lampato mat prananatas tusa evanaparaha. We hear this is the last text of Shikshashtakam. So Krishna was very pleased with them, and since they all desired to have Krishna as their husband, he told them, "My dear, well-behaved girls, I know of your desire for me and why you worshipped goddess Katyayani, and I completely approve of your action. Anyone whose full consciousness is always absorbed in me, even if in lust, is elevated." We should not take this to understand, however, that the gopis were feeling lustful towards Krishna in a material sense or even in any sense in this pastime. In this pastime was more innocent, just like little girls who want to have a sweet husband. There is no lust factor, even in the spiritualized sense. And definitely not material lust. If anyone dares to say that any of the gopis are experiencing material lust, they are a condemned soul. And it is better not even to see the shadow of such a degraded and corrupt individual. Anyone who dares compare the love of the gopis and Srimati Radharani to Krishna with that apparent so-called love of this material world is condemned and will not be able to taste the glories of Raj. Furthermore, they are the worst of humans. And we can speak very heavily about the pure blasphemy that leaves their mouths. In fact, no language is great enough to glorify the Supreme Lord, and no language is severe enough to chastise those people who say that the Srimati Radharani and the gopis experience material lust. As a fried street seed cannot fructify, so any desire in connection with my loving service cannot produce any fruit of result, as in ordinary karma. There is a statement in the Brahma Samhita, Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. Everyone is bound by his fruitive activities, but the devotees, because they work completely for the satisfaction of the Lord, suffer no reactions. Similarly, the gopis' attitude towards Krishna, although seemingly lusty, should not be considered to be like the lusty desires of ordinary women. The reason is explained by Krishna himself. Activities in devotional service to Krishna are transcendental to any fruitive result. My dear gopis, Krishna continued, your desire to have me as your husband will be fulfilled because it is with this desire that you worshipped goddess Katyayani. I promise you that during the next autumn season, you shall be able to meet with me, and you shall enjoy me as your husband. So the girls, they expected at this point to be married in like the Gandharva marriages. At that very point, they expected a marriage like this. But Krishna said that marriage itself is all about the feelings that were shared. Rites and rituals are subsidiaries. So Krishna, he says, actually, our marriage is transcendental, is not based on the rules and rituals of so-and-so. So there's no need for a Gandharva marriage. There's no need for a ritual like this. So we hear that Krishna in this way, he promises to them. He says, I will marry you. But I already have married you. Because marriage in this sense refers to the wonderful dealings that we have had. The wonderful exchanges that we have experienced together now. We should not care for the rituals. So like this, Krishna said, don't worry, we will get married soon. But anyways, so this pastime, it began yesterday. The vrata began yesterday. That the gopis observed. But we should not think that this is some erotic nonsense. This is not something like that. This is a transcendental pastime. So many people discuss it this time of year, and better not to read it directly from Bhagavatam. Better to hear it in classes or read it from Srila Prabhupada's Krishna book. But because many people mention it, we should understand that it is not, again, some romantic love story. I remember once a Mataji who was new to Krishna consciousness came to the temple, and she was asking me if I would ever get married. And she said, if you were to see a little gopi like Krishna does, wouldn't you want to marry her? That's what she said. I said, Mataji, maybe this was too stern a response, but I was like, Mataji, with all due respect, I will never see a gopi the way Krishna does, because that is completely different. It is apasiddhanta, and it is actually damning to our spiritual lives to compare the lust of this material world to that of the spiritual domain. There are other cases. I know of many people, especially vague Hindus who follow some Hindu Bindu Khichdi of like whatever nonsense they come up with that morning. Whatever speculative means they invent and then pass under the names of this so-called Hindu religion. And you'll find it often, they'll post about heartbreak. Oh, I had a breakup. Oh, so bad. Or they'll be like, wow, I'm so much in love. Oh, wow. And what will they do? Sometimes they'll post photos of Radha and Krishna. Or they'll say that I feel like I'm Krishna and everyone around me, they're like Radha and the gopis. Sometimes I hear this often. This is also rascaldom. Such people should be chastised directly. Not because we feel amazing, we understand things and therefore we are chastising them to show how much better understanding we have of spiritual life. No, we must chastise them for their own good, so they do not jeopardize their spiritual life and destroy themselves, practically speaking, because it is a destruction of the self that is guaranteed if one engages with such ideas. So we must be very careful to avoid this prakrita sahajiya tendency. And one of the great ways to avoid it is just to avoid hearing these sort of pastimes, except when they are very relevant. This is not a pastime I would normally be discussing if it had not been occurring yesterday. Or if the relevant day had not been yesterday. So we should not too often dwell in these topics. We should not too often dwell too deep into them, dive too deep into them. There is a natural process. Srila Gaur Das Babaji would say that when people would ask him about some more esoteric, rasic things, he would say a girl cannot give birth just by walking into the maternity ward. There are many things that must come before she walks into the maternity ward. It is the same with hearing and realizing these high things. Not just that we can jump into hearing them and then we will naturally realize them. In the same way that there are steps before the girl can give birth in the maternity ward, in the same way there are many steps before anticipating and approaching the high rasic pastimes. And we should not rush into them. Very damaging for us to do anything of the sort. We must be very self-controlled. And we must understand that this is in a complete other plane of reality. This is not the lust of the world we know. This is the transcendental love of a world that we unfortunately do not know. But hopefully we can know. So anyways, I think our meditation should be the same as we were discussing in Dhammadarashtakam. That Namaradhikaya Todiyai Priyaya Namananta Lilaya Devaya Tubhyam. We give our worships to these elevated pastimes from distance. And we pray that we may be purified in order to understand and hear of these pastimes later on. But for now we keep a solid distance. A solid distance away. A solid but respectful distance. And we pray to the spiritual master and to all of the great devotees that they might be able to open our hearts to be able to understand the intimate aspects of these high pastimes that are our goal, that are our aspiration. So let us pray this. Let us pray to Srila Prabhupada and the spiritual master that we may be qualified to enter into such a domain. And let us pray to all of the demigods as devotees of Krishna, that they may gift us with devotion to Krishna, and they may help us put Krishna at the center of our existence. So on this note, we will conclude for today, and we will begin the 2-week break. After the 2-week break, we will be continuing our long dive into the Caitanya Caritamrita. So, on that note, we will conclude for today, and then we will continue the texts after the conclusion of the Rai Ramananda Samvad that we finished so long ago at this point. So, Shri Shri Katyayani ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Bhagavan Krishna ki jai, Shri Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai, BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, all glorious assembled devotees, Hare Krishna, all glorious assembled devotees, Hare Krishna, all glorious assembled devotees, Hare Krishna, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna.